Sabrina, all of the ever afters wish we were dead, Daphne said. Sabrina looked around the room. Every fairy tale creature she had ever read about seemed to be here. Cinderella and her fairy godmother, the Mad Hatter, Mowgli and Baloo. Even Geppetto was off in the corner chatting with Ali Baba, and Sabrina knew they all hated the Grimms. As unsettling as it was, Sabrina could understand why. Even though Miss Mutt had dumped the girls into some awful foster homes, Sabrina and Daphne knew they could always run away. For the ever afters, there was no escape, and it had been that way for almost 200 years. It must be torment for them, she thought. Where should we start? Daphne asked. They needed to get into the mayor's office, but they also needed to know where Charming was while they were doing it. Sabrina looked around the room, but he wasn't present. Let's just stay out of the way and keep our ears open. Once we know where he is, we'll make our way upstairs. For now, let's mingle. The two walked awkwardly around the main room, gawking at the various literary celebrities and capturing bits of conversations. So she's not coming, a dwarf said to a huge black panther. The panther licked his paws and hungrily eyed Sabrina. She never comes, the panther said. If I left him at the altar, the last place I'd want to go is the man's house. I think it's very respectful of Snow White not to show her face here. But it was almost 400 years ago. The man has been married at least half a dozen times since, the dwarf said. Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and Rapunzel are all here. If they can move on, then Snow White surely can. This community is important. Ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased that you could attend the Fairyfoot Landing 100th Annual Community Ball, Mr. Seven shouted from the top of the red staircase. The musicians laid down their instruments, and everyone turned attention to the mayor's assistant. Allow me to introduce your host for this evening, your mayor, His Majesty Prince Charming. The violinist immediately broke into a stately song as a pair of double doors at the top of the stairs swung open. The crowd burst into applause as Charming waved and descended the staircase. He was all smiles, shaking hands with everyone he met, kissing women on the hands, even if they were ugly witches or even uglier stepsisters, and calling everyone by name as he glided around the room. Mr. Seven followed closely behind him, handing out business cards. What do you say, Whitman? Charming asked, taking Daphne's hand and shaking it vigorously. Hello, Daphne soothed, unable to hide her contempt. Charming reached over, took Sabrina's massive hairy paw, and placed a kiss on it. Mama Bear is lovely as ever, he said with a wink. I hope the two of you are having a wonderful time. We are, thank you, Sabrina said sharply. Maybe we should have acquired some of the bear's aggressiveness along with its body, because for the second time that night she thought she might like to swat someone with her paw. One quick swipe, and she could probably take Charming's head clean off his shoulders. Instead, she smiled and did her best to curtsy, imagining how ridiculous this move looked from a 1,200-pound bear. Please eat, drink, have a wonderful time. The celebration is for us, Charming said as he swept onto the center of the room. Friends, I'm so happy that you could all attend the annual ball, he continued. Each year, we gather together as a community to toast our hard work and, most importantly, our patience. Charming's words sent a frustrated rumble through the crowd. But once again, your support is needed to continue to build our community, he said. There's still work to be done, and we need your help to maintain services, to fund our fine police force, and various other community endeavors. So, I ask you, when you contribute tonight, give deeply. In fact, give until it hurts, or I'll put you in jail. For a moment, there was complete silence, and then a broad, boyish grin sprang to Charming's face. The crowd burst into nervous laughter. Suddenly, a woman pushed through the crowd. Her face was white with powder, as was the long wig she wore on her head. She had used a black pencil to accentuate her eyebrows and lips and had drawn a large black mole on her left cheek. She wore a royal gown, decorated with large red hearts, and next to her stood two armed guards, who, much to the girl's amazement, were playing cards. Prince, what are you doing about the giant? The woman demanded. The crowd grew silent, but Charming merely smiled at her. Your Majesty, it is such an honor to have the Queen of Hearts here together, he said. You haven't answered my question, the Queen snapped. I am trying to make sure all were paying attention. I think the community deserves to know what you are doing to protect this town, and if the money we give each year at this party of yours is well spent. Every ever after can rest assured that my administration is on top of the problem, the prince said. The sheriff and his deputies have been searching the forest, and I have my best witches busy casting locator spells. And if that doesn't work, well, I'll just go lock up the next 200-foot man I see. The crowd chuckled at his joke. That's a fun and good, Charming, the queen replied. But one must ask how the giant got loose in the first place. This kind of thing would never have happened in Wonderland. When I was ruler, people knew better than to try such shenanigans. You have to be firm with the criminal element. Some of the crowd muttered in agreement, but Charming only smiled wider. Well, Queen, let's not go losing our heads over this, he said. The crowd roared with laughter, causing the Queen of Hearts to turn red with rage. It's just one giant, and I've heard a rumor that you are actually controlling this giant, Sabrina said, hardly believing the words came from her mouth. Mama Bear, I never pegged you for a gossip, the prince replied. This nasty little rumor you heard carry more information. For instance, why would I want a giant smashing up the town? So you can buy the land back cheap and rebuild your kingdom, Sabrina replied. Charming's face turned pale. Nonsense, he muttered. Why have the Grimms hear of this? Said the Queen of Hearts. Rhoda is already aware of it. The giant has carried her off, the prince informed her. The crowd roared in shock. Rhoda Grimm is in the hands of a giant, the Queen cried. As is Mr. Canis, Charming added. The crowd was silent, and then a spattering of applause broke out. Many of the ever afters shook hands and patted one another on the back, while others looked worried and upset. Canis will finally get what's coming to him, a troll cheered. Take that back, Daphne screamed. Sabrina tried to pinch her to be quiet, but her palms slid off her sister's thin body. People, unfortunately, this celebration is turning into a town hall meeting. Charming called above the noise. If you have any further concerns, I want you to know that my door is always open between the hours of 8 and 8:15 every morning. Please call for an appointment. For now, let's dance, drink, be merry, and most of all, be ourselves, free of the disguises we all wear to fit into this pathetic, boring little town. The night is young, and by the grace of magic, so are we. Charming's words were followed by another lively tune from the violinists, and their festive mood soon returned. The girls mingled in the crowd, barely able to contain themselves whenever they heard angry, threatening words about their family from the mouths of characters they had grown up loving. It seemed that the only topic of conversation tonight was how wonderful the world would be if the Grimm family dropped off the face of the earth. When the clock struck 8:45, both girls had had enough. It was high time they made their move. I have to get upstairs, Sabrina said to Daphne. If we stick around here any longer, we're going to change back, and these people will probably kill us. Find somewhere out of the way, and warn me on the walkie-talkie if Charming is coming. Good luck, Daphne said, wrapping her hard metal arms around Sabrina and hugging her. Sabrina navigated through the crowd. As she approached the steps, she thought she'd finally found her opportunity. That was until Sheriff Hempstead stepped in her way. Young lady, you are under arrest, Hempstead said. Sabrina wondered what she should do. She could probably knock the sheriff down with one swing of her big bare paw, but everyone would see. Running away didn't seem like an option either. For being the prettiest lady at the ball, the sheriff continued. Thank you, she stammered, somewhat confused. Wonderful party, don't you think? Said Hempstead as he transformed to his true pig self. Yes, she said. Could you excuse me? I have to visit the ladies' room. Hempstead apologized and let her pass. Sabrina lunged up the stairs until she reached the top. She walked past the violinists and down a long hallway. When she was outside the crowd, She made sure no one was following, then reached into her purse and pulled out the walkie-talkie, awkwardly switching it on with her big paws. "Jack, I'm upstairs," she said. "Good job, Duck. His office is the last one," Jack said, his voice popping and crackling. "I can barely hear you. Say again," Sabrina said. "It's the last one on the right," Jack repeated, still sounding distant. Sabrina walked down the hallway. When she got to the end, she found the door Jack had spoken of. She opened it, and standing before her was another 7-foot grizzly bear ready to pounce. Sabrina screamed, but the bear did nothing. In fact, it didn't even twitch. Sabrina realized it was stuffed. The room was dedicated to Prince Charming's hunting trophies. Several mounted deer heads, a stuffed fox, and a wild boar overlooked Charming's immense desk. A rattlesnake sat on top of it, poised and ready to strike. What portions of the walls weren't covered in dead animals were hung with portraits of the prince done in various artistic styles. There was even an extra portrait in which his nose was on his forehead. "Creepy," Sabrina whispered to herself. She reached for her walkie-talkie and pushed the button again. "I'm in." "The coast is clear down here," Daphne's voice said. "Charming is busy talking to a raccoon in a tuxedo. That's so crazy." "Look for a map or something like that," Jack's voice squawked through the box. "Charming keeps records of everything." Dozens of files and reports littered the top of the mayor's desk, including an unfolded map of the town. Someone had circled areas in red and written reported sightings next to them. "Jack, are you there?" Sabrina said into the walkie-talkie. "Yes," his voice crackled. "I found a map with some circles on it, but there's nothing that says the exact time or location of a meeting. In fact, to me it looks like Charlie's trying to track the giant as well." "I doubt it. That Holmes, too." Jack's voice broke up. "Jack, I can't hear you. Try to get closer," Sabrina said, but there was no response. "Daphne, I've lost Jack somehow. I'm going to take the map." "What's Charming doing?" Sabrina asked, but there was no response from her sister either. Sabrina looked around the room. In the corner was a television. Hooked to the back by wires was a video camera, and on the television screen was a frozen image of the Appleby farm. Sabrina crossed the room and found the remote control. She picked it up awkwardly, and after several difficult seconds managed to put her giant paw to press the play button. The screen came to fly with the most amazing scene. The giant bean that was exploding upward from the ground, soaring high into the sky and disappearing off the top edge of the TV. Within seconds, an enormous body came crawling down, and the sight sent shivers through Sabrina. It was the giant she had met the day before. It stomped down on the little Appleby farmhouse just as Mr. Appleby leaped out the door. Granny had been right. The lens cap did mean something. Charming had taped the whole violent episode. "Daphne, I found a tape in Charming's office that shows the giant destroying the farmhouse. Now we have proof that he and the giant are working together," Sabrina said. But before she could finish her sentence, the door burst open and the Tin Woodsman was pushed inside. Behind her was Charming, looking murderous. He slammed the door and took a crossbow from the wall, where it was hanging like a piece of art. "I'm sorry," Daphne apologized. "He snuck up on me before I could warn you." "Who are you?" he demanded. "I'm Mama Bear," Sabrina replied. Sabrina lied. "Is that so?" Charming sneered. "That would be interesting, since it's almost December, and you should be 3 weeks into your hibernation by now." "I didn't want to miss such a lovely party," Sabrina stammered. Next to the door sat a quill of arrows. Charming selected one, inserted it into the crossbow, and pulled the bowstring back. Then he aimed it at Sabrina's heart. "I'm going to give you until the count of 5 to tell me who you are, or your head is going to join the others on my wall," he threatened coolly. Chapter 10. "I'm not playing any more games with you people," Charming said. "I've told you already I'm not interested in joining the Scarlet Hand. The revolution is not for me.